So today, let's jump into the Knights Templar.
Yes. A really significant order of devout Christians back in the medieval period.
Their core mission was kind of two things at once, wasn't it? Military stuff in the Holy Land, sure.
Absolutely, that was key. But also, crucially, protecting European travelers. That journey was incredibly dangerous.
And that mix, warrior and monk, basically.
Mm-hmm.
It seems central to how they rose so fast. We're talking about an order that became incredibly rich, powerful, and, well, still pretty enigmatic.
Mm-hmm. Known for finance, surprisingly sophisticated banking even, military skill, of course, and just this intense dedication during the Crusades.
They were major players. For almost 2 centuries, they were right there in the thick of it, politically, financially, across Europe and the Holy Land.
Definitely shaped the landscape. So our mission here is to really unpack the essentials, beginnings, peak, legacy, the whole story.
Okay, let's start at the beginning then. The origins. Our sources place this after the First Crusade. Pilgrims were vulnerable.
Exactly. The context is key. So around 1118, give or take, you have this French knight, Hugues de Payens, and about 8 others. They form a military order.
Initially called the Poor Fellow Soldiers of Christ and the Temple of Solomon. Quite a mouthful.
It was. And their job, very specific at first, keep European travelers safe on the way to the Holy Land.
And they got backing pretty quickly. King Baldwin II of Jerusalem. He helped them out.
He did. Gave them quarters, actually, right there on the Temple Mount.
Wow. The Temple Mount, site of Solomon's temple.
And that's where the name comes from, you see. Knights Templar. Stuck ever since. They also got support from the Patriarch of Jerusalem, Warmond, so religious backing too.
Okay, so they're operating for a bit. Then comes the formal recognition. Council of Troyes, 1128. That sounds important.
Hugely important. Bernard of Clairvaux, a very influential churchman, was behind it. They officially adopted a monastic rule.
The rule of St. Benedict, like monks.
Specifically the Cistercian reform of it, yeah.
Mm.
Which emphasized monastic discipline, austerity. It fit their dual role.
And they got the white mantle then, too. The symbol.
Mm-hmm. Symbolizing purity, a chaste life, dedication, very potent visually.
And then the Pope himself gets involved. Honorius II, 1129, same council.
Yes. Full papal endorsement, official recognition from the Catholic Church. They were sanctioned as, well, an army of God.
That paper nod must have been like rocket fuel for them.
Oh, absolutely. It gave them immense legitimacy across Christendom. And that set the stage for, well, massive growth in the 12th century.
Right. Their influence just exploded after that. What was the big catalyst?
A major one was another pope, Innocent II, and his papal bull in 1139, Omne Datum Optimum.
Every perfect gift? Sounds promising.
Yeah.
What did it do?
It was a game changer. Placed the Templars directly under the Pope's protection. Basically gave them incredible autonomy.
Health.
Exempt from taxes, not subject to local bishops or lords, allowed to build their own chapels, their oratories. Think about that freedom.
That's huge for the time. Must have made people flock to them. Donations, recruits.
Exactly right. Families across Europe started donating money, land, businesses. Noble sons joined up. This flood of resources let them set up chapters everywhere.
Where specifically?
All over Western Europe, France, England, Spain. Major hubs. They weren't just a Holy Land thing anymore. They were truly international.
So how did they manage this big, sprawling organization? Must have needed structure.
Oh, definitely. They had a very clear hierarchy. Each country with a big Templar presence had a master.
And they reported up.
To the Grand Master, who was based in Jerusalem. And within the order, you had ranks.
Oh, okay.
The noble knights are the ones you usually picture, the fighters. Then non-noble sergeants, crucial support, skills, and chaplains for the spiritual side.
And this structure, it was based on something.
Yeah, sources say it was inspired by the Cistercians again. Strong central authority, efficient administration. It worked.
Okay, so they're organized, expanding, getting rich. Now, the bit everyone knows.
Right.
The Crusades. Their job description changed, didn't it?
It broadened considerably. Beyond just protecting pilgrims, they became key defenders of the Crusader states themselves.
And they got a reputation. Fierce warriors.
Exceptionally brave, highly skilled. Their fighting style was fueled by, intense religious belief. They were formidable.
I remember reading about their battle rules.
Yeah.
Like, they couldn't retreat.
Pretty much. Forbidden from retreating unless the odds were just completely overwhelming. Facing certain annihilation.
Wow, that's commitment.
It defined them. Often put right at the front, leading the charge. Made them legendary, but also meant heavy casualties sometimes.
Any key battles that stand out?
Well, Montgisard in 1177, a really significant victory against Saladin's much larger army, showed their tactical ability.
But not always victories, right?
No, definitely not. The Battle of Hattin in 1187, that was a catastrophe. A devastating loss for the Crusaders, including many Templars, led to Jerusalem falling.
Oof.
And they were heavily involved in the Siege of Acre, too, during the Third Crusade. A long, tough, but vital campaign.
And they weren't alone out there. The Hospitallers, the Teutonic Knights.
Yeah.
How did they all get along?
It was complicated. Shared goals, yes, defending Christendom, but also rivals.
Over what?
Land, money, political clout in the Crusader states. It wasn't always friendly cooperation. Shows you the power dynamics of the era.
But it wasn't just fighting, was it? They had other strategic roles.
Absolutely. They were major builders, castles, fortifications throughout the Holy Land. Crucial infrastructure.
And not just the Holy Land.
No, their military efforts reached the Iberian Peninsula too, Spain and Portugal. From the mid-12th century, they were part of the Reconquista, fighting against the Muslim kingdoms there.
Okay, let's shift focus a bit. Daily life. When they were on campaign, what was it like being a Templar? Not all battle cries and charges.
Far from it. Life was governed by a really strict monastic code. It blended military duty with, well, basically being a monk.
Same vows. Poverty, chastity.
Obedience. Yep. The big three. They had the rule of the Templars, which laid out everything. How to dress, eat, behave, punishments.
Some of those rules seem intense. No heavy drinking, gambling, swearing. No hugging your mom, practically.
Well, prohibitions on physical affection towards female relatives, yeah. It sounds extreme, but it points to the level of discipline they aimed for. Total dedication.
That's very structured day.
Highly structured, built around the canonical hours, the set times for prayer, starting super early, like 4 a.m.
Wow. And meals.
Communal, eaten in total silence, meant to foster obedience, cut down on chatter, allow for contemplation.
Any downtime.
Not really downtime as we think of it. When not praying or training, they were expected to work. Manual labor, admin, whatever. Idleness was seen as a sin.
So deep religious devotion was woven into everything.
Absolutely central. They were deeply devout Catholics, and sources mention a particular veneration for the Virgin Mary. Lots of prayers directed to her.
Right. Now, let's talk about something else they're famous for, maybe infamous. Their wealth and their role in finance. How did this warrior monk order get so incredibly rich?
It started with donations, really. Grateful pilgrims, nobles, kings. They gave land, money, property across Europe and the Holy Land.
So they ended up owning huge amounts of land.
Vast holdings. And this network of properties generated enormous income and resources. It just snowballed.
But then there's the banking aspect. That seems quite ahead of its time.
It really was. They developed this early form of banking initially to help pilgrims.
How did that work? The letter of credit thing.
Exactly. A pilgrim could, say, deposit gold or valuables at the Templar house in London or Paris. They'd get a coded letter of credit.
Okay.
Then, when they arrived in Jerusalem or Acre, they could present that letter at the Templar house there and withdraw the equivalent value in local currency.
That's brilliant. So much safer than carrying chests of gold across bandit country.
Precisely. Huge benefit for pilgrims. But it also, almost accidentally, created this massive, trusted international financial network.
And they didn't just stop at pilgrims, did they?
No, their reputation grew. European monarchs, nobles, they started using the Templars as their bankers.
It's really managing royal money.
Managing royal treasuries, yeah. Providing massive loans to finance wars, state projects. They became indispensable financial players.
Just how big did their economic operation get?
At their peak, they had their own fleet of ships. They even owned the entire island of Cyprus for a time. That gives you a sense of the scale.
Wow. Cyprus. Okay, so with all that money, all that influence, their political relationships must have been complex, especially with the church.
Very complex. Their unique advantage was reporting directly to the Pope. Not local bishops, not kings, straight to the top.
That gave them special privileges. Autonomy.
Significant autonomy. They could operate across borders, ignore local taxes and tithes in many cases. It made them powerful, but also potentially resented.
Almost like a state within a state in some ways.
You could see it like that. They certainly wielded political influence, served as diplomats, mediators sometimes.
I read somewhere the master in England had a seat in Parliament.
In the House of Lords, yes. As the first Baron of the realm. Shows their standing. And English kings used them constantly for financial tasks, like collecting tithes for the Pope.
But all this power, this wealth, it must have created enemies, jealousy, suspicion.
Absolutely. It was inevitable. Both secular rulers and even parts of the church started looking at them sideways. Their power bred suspicion and, frankly, envy.
Which brings us to the main antagonist, King Philip I of France.
To Philip the Fair, yes. He was heavily in debt to the Templars, crucially. And he was trying to centralize his own power, grab wealth wherever he could. The Templars looked like a tempting target.
So he started making accusations.
Very serious ones. Heresy, blasphemy, idolatry, worshipping a demonic head called Baphomet, homosexual practices, financial corruption, spitting on the cross. Really wild stuff.
Where does all that come from? Was there any truth to it?
Overwhelming historical consensus is, no, it seems largely fabricated. But the Templars were secretive about their initiation rites.
And that secrecy worked against them.
It fueled the fire, made the accusations seem plausible to some, created mistrust, gave Philip the ammunition he needed or thought he needed.
Which leads us to that date, Friday the 13th, 1307. Still gives people the shivers what actually went down.
It was a coordinated strike. Philip IV ordered the mass arrest of Templars all across France. Dawn raids completely caught them off guard.
And then, arrest wasn't the end of it.
No. The arrested Templars were handed over to royal inquisitors, essentially, and subjected to brutal torture.
To get confessions.
To force confessions, which, under that kind of duress, many gave. Confessing to heresy, blasphemy, all the charges Philip had laid out.
It sounds utterly horrific, a complete setup.
It was a shocking betrayal, especially given the centuries of service the Templars had provided. But Philip had Pope Clement V, who was based in Avignon and heavily under French influence.
So Pope went along with it.
Reluctantly, it seems, and under immense pressure from Philip, he eventually agreed to formally dissolve the entire order in 1312 at the Council of Vienne.
Dissolved. Gone.
Officially, yes. And the final act, really, was the execution of the last Grand Master, Jacques de Molay, in 1314.
What happened to him?
He'd confessed under torture earlier, but then brought out to be sentenced to life imprisonment, he dramatically recanted. Said the confessions were false, the order was innocent.
Bold move.
Fatal one. Philip IV had him declared a relapsed heretic and burned him at the stake in Paris almost immediately.
And all their wealth, their property, what happened to it?
Supposedly, it was to be transferred to the Knights Hospitaller, their old rivals.
Did that happen?
Some of it did outside France. But within France, Philip IV confiscated a huge amount for the royal treasury. Other rulers did similarly. It was a grab for assets.
And that sudden, violent end. The secrecy, the accusations, it's no wonder they're still talked about. Legends, myths.
Oh, absolutely. Their downfall basically guaranteed they'd live on in legend. The combination of lost wealth and secret rituals is irresistible.
Like the hidden treasure. People still look for it, right? Holy Grail, Ark of the Covenant.
Those stories persist, definitely. The idea that they hid some vast treasure, maybe sacred relics, before the arrests, it's a powerful myth.
And connections to secret societies. Freemasons.
Yes, that's another enduring one. Links drawn between Templar symbols or ideals and later groups like the Freemasons. Some modern organizations claim Templar lineage or inspiration, though direct historical links are debated, to say the least.
And theories they didn't really disappear. Fled to Scotland, maybe. Sailed to America.
The theories are out there, too. Less evidence, more speculation. The idea they survived in secret, regrouped elsewhere, it adds to the mystique.
So even centuries after they were officially gone, their story just keeps going. But looking back, what's their actual tangible legacy? What did they leave behind?
Well, several things. Their financial innovations, those early banking techniques, they really did lay some groundwork for later international finance. That's significant.
Okay. What else?
Militarily, their discipline and tactics influenced others. The idea of a religiously motivated elite fighting force. And architecturally...
Castles and churches.
Exactly. You can still see Templar churches and fortifications across Europe and the Middle East, physical reminders, and of course their enduring presence in popular culture books, films, games. This is still fascinating.
So it's quite a journey. From this small band protecting pilgrims.
Right, with a very specific mission.
To this massive international powerhouse, driven by faith, fighting skill, financial savvy, political connections.
A potent mix. But that same power, that wealth, it ultimately sowed the seeds of their destruction. Suspicion, envy, King Philip's ruthless move.
But their impact, it feels like it goes beyond their official lifespan. Finance, military history, architecture, and just this hold on our imagination.
Definitely. Their story is this incredible blend of documented history and captivating myth. It ensures they remain one of the most, well, enigmatic and endlessly explored orders of the Middle Ages.
And that's a wrap on today's episode of Deep Dive. Please like and subscribe. Thank you,